Hello, and welcome to another episode of Movie Mess 101. It is me back again, Tom Button, to talk the rest of Arcane with you folks. Thank you for the support on the previous videos. I really appreciate it. But for this video, this might be the biggest of them all because a lot happens in the final act of Arcane that really needs explaining, and I probably won't have enough time to talk about every character and every single dangling. Well, they don't dangle plot lines, but I probably won't have time to talk about it all in depth, all the characters and how they end up. But I'm going to try my best. Damn it! So here we go. There was wasting no time. So where do we leave off? And at the end of Act 2. Well, at the end of Act 2, Vi and Jinx reunited on the top of the tower, got into a fight with the Firelights, and Caitlyn and Vi got knocked out and taken, as well as the crystal that Jinx was working on. She was working on planning to build a weapon for Silko. Yeah, so the Firelights have the crystal, as well as Caitlyn and Vi. Now, so where we start off at is that they're in the Firelights hideout, sort of like strapped back to back, and sort of they bicker, and Vi and Caitlyn bicker between themselves about, oh, you got us into this mess, and sort of how do we get out, and sort of all that sort of stuff. And then Vi is taken in to meet the leader. Finally, we get to see who the leader of this group is. If you remember, the Firelights did attack Silko's blimp to destroy the Shimmer, but that backfired when Jinx attacked. Vi is taken in to meet the leader, and we finally find out who the leader of the Firelights is. It's Echo. Echo, who we last met as a boy, who sort of knew about the plans that Vander had with the police, and so and that's the last that we saw of him. So he's much older now. He's about like a teenager, I think. Like he's certainly older, probably like a late teenager. But he is the leader of the Firelights, and it's really sweet because when Vi sort of recognizes who he is, she gets like up immediately, like takes the cuffs off that she was like handcuffed. She took them off immediately and hugged him, which is the first thing that she did when she saw him, which is quite sweet. And after the reunion, he takes her on a tour of their sort of little underground lair. It's really nice. It's really pretty. It has a massive tree in the middle, and everybody lives like in harmony, and everybody lives like fairly easy on. Echo explains that after Silko took over, he flooded the underground with Shimmer, and so he and sort of a bunch of just desperate people like retreated further into one of the systems there, and sort of created this new society, this new haven. It looks really nice. So they're there, and it's funny because when Caitlyn is taken to meet Echo, she doesn't know what has happened to Vi. She doesn't know if she's in danger or not. And then she just like appears like at a door where she's being kept, and like saying like, oh, I thought they were hurting you or whatever. And just like, nah, he's a friend. Don't worry about it. So they have the crystal, and in a sort of and they talk with Caitlin, and Echo isn't really trustworthy of Caitlin. She's not only, well, of course, she's not only a topsider, but she's an enforcer, which makes him very, very not uncomfortable, but very, very, very distrustful. Of course, I mean that would be fairly reasonable. But she explains that maybe that there's a way to kind of get back to topside to go and talk to the council. They have the gemstone and are sort of willing to sort of give it to the police, so it could be back in sort of Jace's hand. Caitlin says that she has a friend on the council, obviously Jace, and well, quite hesitantly, Echo agrees, but he says that he's the one. He's going to give it to him. He's going to give it to them. He's the one that's gonna give it to him. And I'll go into this a little bit more, but like there's some more stuff with Vi and Caitlin's relationship, little gradual things that are really, really good sort of like setters, because it's just the like animation and sort of the faces, especially with those two, really is really, really nice. I'll explain it. I'll explain a bit more about their relationship in a bit later in the video. So that's their plan. They're going to go to the council. They're going to go to the police and hopefully try and give them the gemstones so they can get back on side. So we have that. And we also have Silko and Jinx, who are. It's really strange, because I thought that like it was going to be the relationship that they had was going to be very manipulative, and sort of with Silko sort of deceiving her like along the way. But you see in their scenes that they really care about each other, especially Silko to Jinx. I mean, he treats her like his daughter, and he never really gets angry with her. He never really sort of, because she like actually gets stuff done, and although people around her, including Savika, try and tell him that like that she is very dangerous and she could bring the whole operation crashing down with her, Silko is still loyal to her and still believes that she's doing really well. And then after he finds out that Vi is alive, he goes to the house of the sheriff, Marcus. There's a scene in the 6th episode where we see Marcus sort of go into his daughter's room. His daughter is there, and then he opens it more, and Silko is like sitting opposite her, and it's like really uncomfortable. And I just Silko was sort of saying to his daughter, Daddy assured me that things would happen, and that this girl would take a long trip, as he called it, and basically threatens him in front of his daughter, and sort of. But Marcus says, "I can fix this. Let me work at it and try and catch this girl and sort of and bring her back to you, I suppose." So he's in massive trouble, and he knows it, and he knows that it's going to be it's a whole thing sort of blown wide open. You think that he wants to do the right thing. He's sort of like he's gripping with what he's doing, and he knows the right thing, but he doesn't want to put his daughter in danger, And yeah, so there's that. Um, on the other hand, up in Piltover, Victor is experimenting with the hex core, and is kind of sort of binding his body, because he said that it reacts to organic matter, and so he's been experimenting with himself and the hex core, like binding sort of things. But then it goes a little bit too far. In the sixth episode, we see a backstory for Victor, in which he's at like a he's at like a stream, and he's got like this mechanical boat, and he's sickly and has a sort of a crutch with him. The boat goes off down the river and into this dark cave, this hideout, where he meets the doctor, they call him. And now this is interesting because this is the guy who was working on the Shimmer with Silko in the first few episodes, and we now know that that we thought that he had died in the explosion. So we see him and Victor trying to sort of like get together, because he has this mutation. This doctor has this mutation and wants somebody to help him out with some research. And Victor, being a kid, just decides, hey, this is what I'm going to do now. But that all goes sort of haywire when the creature sort of gets sick, and Victor becomes really attached to it, and so decides to sort of leave, because he thinks that that his treatment of this creature is unethical, and just walks away. But later in life, he tells Jace that he might have somebody, he knows somebody that could help with this puzzle, this hex core. And so he goes to him once again, and we see the doctor for the first time in the present. He's all, and like, you don't really see much of him, but he's really scarred. He's got like a massive scar on the side of his face, and he covers up his mouth, probably because that he's disfigured from the explosion. And the doctor sort of gives him tries to sort of learn what he's doing, and gives him a vial of Shimmer to maybe do something with. Maybe mutate something a bit more, because Victor is very sick, he's very ill, he's on a crutch. Like most of the series, he's on a crutch. And so it becomes about him trying to just survive, basically. So we have that, and then later on, in the episode, in the seventh episode, we see that everybody's on the bridge now. Vi and Caitlin and Echo are on the bridge, and they're going to the police. And Vi has like a sort of a PTSD moment, because it's the bridge where her parents were killed, and where she saw hundreds of people like lying in the streets, and sort of after the revolt in the first few minutes of the first episode. And she doesn't really sort of like want to do it, but she lets them go on ahead anyway, and can't do it. So she hugs them both goodbye, and they go their separate ways, because she can't really handle it. Little do they know, Jinx is already perched on top of the bridge, and looks on them, and like looks at Caitlin and Vi hugging, and basically argues with the shadows in her head. And it's just a goodbye hug. It doesn't mean anything. But then sort of like something happens when they get to the police barricade at the bridge. Marcus is there, and Caitlin says, I can prove everything. Silko's behind it all. We have evidence, we have the gemstone. And this, like, it's like it's not really, you don't really feel tension that much, but then you do, like, straight away when Marcus decides to shoot Echo. Luckily he's got body armor on, so he's not really hurt. He shoots Echo, and Vi hears it and basically runs back the other way. And I just love, like, Caitlin, because she's trying to do the right thing, and she thinks that she knows how this works, but Marcus has put a spanner in that. He's betrayed his own people, his own enforcer, and so Echo is down momentarily. And when you see Vi running back, you see these bugs, these what they call firelights, which are like these glowing green bugs that sort of swarm out of nowhere. And they are sort of heavily sort of like implied in the beginning of the episode when they go down to the firelight sanctuary. And sort of they're walking on the streets. It says, "Oh, it's firelights. They're very common in the underground." So this swarm of firelights comes over the bridge, and sort of lands on a few officers. You don't really know what's happening. Like, there's a load of them, and then one lands on Marcus's gun as he's pointing it at Caitlin, because of his daughter was going to shoot Caitlin. But one of the firelights lands on his pistol, and you don't really see it at first, but like, it's mechanical. You don't really know why it's mechanical, and then it sort of like lifts up its wings, and then everything just blows up. Everything just like, there's like green fireworks. It's just they're mini bombs. And it's kind of referenced that in a few sort of Jinx sequences, that she's kind of been working on these firelights and these mechanical firelights and like mini bombs. So she set a massive trap, blowing up all of the police that were there. Apart from Caitlin sort of like manages to kind of sort of like duck out the way, but she gets wounded pretty badly in the leg. And so the next thing you know is you see Jinx walking on the bridge, humming the same tune as she did on the first episode. It's really, really ominous and really sort of like disturbing. And because she was going to, so she walks across the bridge, gets the device with the hex stone in it, and sort of tries to walk away. Luckily, Echo comes up, like, and gets his board and basically like speeds towards her, to try and get it back, and sort of like and a little skirmish happens. So Jinx shoots his hoverboard and disables it, and this is where one of the best fight scenes in the entire show happens. Oh my god, this fight scene is just amazing. So what you have is Echo and Jinx going up against each other. You think Jinx doesn't really know who he is, and then he gives her a clue. He holds out his little sort of like pocket watch and sort of like dangles it, and sort of as it starts ticking and ticking and ticking, and then the animation shifts to this wonderful flashback watercolor palette. Is very bright, very nice, but like it shows them as kids fighting, like play fighting, Powder and Echo like play fighting, and it's just, and you see within this watercolor sort of like flashback, them sort of like trying to shoot each other, and Echo's trying to dodge. He gets like shot with like a paintball in the flashback, and sort of like it's kind of like a detail of what might happen in this fight, and sort of as a great precursor to the fight. because after that happens, it Echo sort of like it rewinds, and then it starts again, and Jinx has an actual gun, not a paintball gun, and Echo has like a melee weapon of sorts, like a massive like a mallet. And so like a gunfight ensues. Echo tries to shoot him. Jinx tries to shoot him. He's dodging all over the place, and he gets the upper hand. He smashes her with this mallet and gets her on the ground. Starts like wailing on her, and then as he's about to finish it, he sort of like pulls back and sees somewhere within a Powder, the girl that he sort of like basically grew up with. Now this is interesting because in earlier, basically, Echo, Vi still believes that she can get to Powder somewhere inside her, and Echo is just like Echo keeps telling her like she's not in there anymore. She's Jinx. That's what she is now, and she tries to sort of like deny it, but then we get back to this scene where he sees Powder like in Jinx's eyes. He like sees some remnants of her like somewhere. So he hesitates and doesn't kill her, and then Jinx sets a grenade off. Echo tries to move out of the way, and another big explosion happens. You don't see Echo, but you see Caitlyn on the ground, and Vi. I mean, like Vi's already there, and this is before the fight. But Vi gets to Caitlyn and looks at Jinx and sort of wants to do stuff, like wants to be there, and sort of Jinx gets like a little hallucination of Caitlyn like with devil horns, and it's just like really sort of like again disturbing. And that's when Echo comes in with the hoverboard, and then that's when the fight starts. So they go off back to Piltover, back to try and find some help for Caitlyn's leg. But at the end of the episode, Jinx is like mortally wounded. So that's episode 7. That's a lot. I love that fight so much. I don't think it's it's one of my favorites. I think it's my second favorite. We'll get to my favorite fight of the entire series at the end. But like the way that they did that, the way that they animated it, the way that the song, I think it's Denzel Curry who did the song for it, and it's just so good. I recognized him as soon as the music kicked in. It's just like, oh, this is perfect. So yeah, you have all this destruction, you have all this sort of stuff. You don't really know where Echo's gone. You assume that he might be wounded or injured in some way, but you don't really see him. So episode 8, Vi and Caitlyn are still have the plan, and they get to Piltover, and sort of and Vi has Caitlyn. She's kind of hobbling along, and sort of is very sort of like weary of the fact that she needs like medical attention, and is really sort of like careful with her, and really sort of like, need I say like delicate, because like the relationship is kind of blooming more. I'll speak about this in a little bit, but so at one point in Piltover, when like guards are everywhere and guards are moving to the bridge because this massive explosion happens, so before they sort of move anywhere, they open the device because they think that the gemstone's still there. It's not, and so they have a problem, and they decide to go to Caitlyn's house to sort of lay low for a little bit. And so day breaks on the bridge. Marcus and the enforcers that he was with are dead. Especially like the Marcus thing. He wasn't like a great character, but you see him like lying there just like dead, and just like, oh man, it's really ugly. And Jace comes onto the bridge, and this is where everything sort of like hectic is happening, because like there's protesters from the Undercity trying to get into Piltover, and sort of the police like block them off. But Jace sees like the destruction around him, and he's just like horrified. And Mel's there with him, and nothing about sort of defense is said quite yet, but it's very, very clear that they have to do something about it. They have to do something about Silko and about the Undercity. Jace goes to Victor, who's on the bridge as well, and he doesn't know that the doctor he's been working with is from the Undercity, and he gets pretty pissed about it. But Victor says, no, it's okay. I've got everything sorted. It's all fine. And so Jace just like says, okay, fine, just do whatever you want. So you have that, and then you have Victor. Victor has this vial of shimmer. He's at the hex core, and he has like carved sort of like runes into his skin to try and sort of do something with it, and he injects the shimmer into himself. He cuts himself with the shimmer in his veins, and sort of touches the hex, not the hex gate, the hex core. And this is when the big sort of transformation happens. Everything goes wild. Everything sort of like, you don't know whether you're going to die or not. And it's just like, there's all these effects go on. And it's just like, is he gonna injure himself or what? I don't know. But yeah, that's you think it's the end, but it's not. He's like actually helps him in the end, because he actually, like, with the hex core's help, it sort of like revives his leg. His leg is all like purple, like a purpley color, and it's like a prosthetic leg that he has. And yeah, it's kind of healed him, which is crazy. And there's a beautiful scene where he is on sort of a, like, near the sea. He drops his cane and starts like running, and as you see him running, you see like a ship in the background, which is great, great imagery, considering what we saw before in episode 6, where he couldn't keep up with his mechanical boat before, and now he's running faster and faster and faster, and actually beats the boat, which is just, it's a great scene. It's a great animation. It's great animation. It's great like emotion for the character, I think. And so he's like, now that he has his leg, he thinks that he can do sort of like more with this hex core, and so decides to experiment some more. We'll come back to him in a little bit. So yeah, Vi and Caitlin get to Caitlin's house, and Caitlin's parents bust in, and Caitlin says, okay, this is Vi, she's from the Undercity. It's kind of like an awkward situation, like this, she's helping me out, she's doing all this, and yeah, I just need to, like, and she goes with her parents to kind of explain what's happened. Her father kind of picks out the shrapnel from the mechanical bomb that Jinx had, like you see like bits of the wing, and it's like, see her trying to sort of like heal up. And then there's a scene after that. It doesn't happen exactly after that, but Caitlin comes back to her room where Vi is like sitting, like lying on the bed and sort of like looking at all the plans that she's made up, and she says that you managed to figure this all out. How did you do it? And it's just like he's Caitlin's just like, well, someone had to like figure out what was going on. And they sit next to each other, and there's this like lovely moment where sort of they're sort of like lying on Caitlin's bed, and Vi is telling her about Powder, specifically a story about how when they were younger they would create like monsters for themselves, and they would sort of try to outscare each other. And when Powder, like, she tried not to make like Powder cry because it would wake up her parents and all of that. And the way that that's told um is really kind of emotive, because it brings back a lot of sort of like bad memories for Vi. And sort of like considering that she saw her different state in a different state, like now as Jinx, it just like it's the regret is there, and you can tell that the regret is there. And they sort of get closer together, and Vi is almost like on the edge of tears, and um uh Caitlin comes in with a sort of like, she strokes her face, and they hold hands. This is the interesting thing, is that their relationship, or their building relationship, is so interesting because of the duality. Vi is very tough, very, very hard and brittle, and doesn't really sort of like that. But Caitlin is very sympathetic and very warm to people, even when she talks to Echo, who doesn't trust her at all. She brings she talks to him, not as a friend, but like wants to help, wants to sort of make things better than the way that they are. She doesn't really understand their world necessarily, but she says that I know that, but I just want to help in whatever I can. And Vi understands that, as she's talking to Echo, as Caitlin is talking to Echo. Vi is kind of there, and she kind of like looks at her, and she kind of like realizes in her head, maybe she's okay, maybe she does want to help, maybe she does care. And yeah, it's just like this interesting like dichotomy between somebody who has not lost all hope, but like is sort of very, very kind of like down and pessimistic, and this other character who is very, very not optimistic, but very sympathetic, and very very empathetic to people's feelings. And that's why they make such a good pair. I was pretty skeptical in like episodes 5 and 6, but like in episode 8, when they're talking on Caitlin's bed, and it's just like really, and you get it, you sort of like understand that Caitlin has feelings. Vi kind of does, but she doesn't let her know that. And it's just a great scene overall. So that out the way. Jinx is injured, and Silko goes to Jinx late at night. He finds her on the bridge, and he actually is very, very worried for her. Is on the verge of just like not breaking down, but like he goes to cradle her, and he picks her up and takes her to the doctor. At the doctor, he gets there, and this is the same guy that Victor was dealing with. He has Shimmer like just available, and he says to Silko, it might not work, but she might not be the same after this. But Silko doesn't care. Silko's like, whatever you do, she will live. I know she'll live. And so they strap her. He straps her down, and when Silko doesn't know it, the doctor uh, drugs Silko and sort of drags him into a chair, knocking him out. And so so Jinx is now in the hands of this mad doctor. It pumps her full of full of shimmer. It works. She comes back to life, but like she gets visions again, and she gets like really worried that Caitlin is going to replace her for Vi, and she has like terrifying visions of like Vi like pointing a gun at her, like Vi. She hallucinates that the doctor is Caitlin, and it's just awful. It's just like she's in pain, she's screaming her lungs out, and it's just like, oh, it's just, I feel bad. I really do. So you have that. So now the council is in disarray because they find out through Caitlin and Vi that one of their own, Marcus, had betrayed them, and it's all going downhill. Jace is the de facto leader, and he's sort of like debating, oh, what should we do? What is the best course of action to take? And he doesn't really want to do this. He doesn't really want to like have a war with the Undercity, but it's kind of the only recourse he has, and that's kind of backed up by Mel saying like, this is the only way. And this is sort of like how it has to be. It doesn't have to be war, but that you have to do something about it. And so they're kind of stuck because Victor and Jace kind of just said that Hextech is going to like was trying to like progress things, and it was not to be used as a weapon. And so when Caitlin is healed, she goes with Vi to the council. She brings Vi along to present their case, and it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well. They're not like laughed out or anything, but like Vi kind of makes an ass of herself and sort of like talks out of turn, and which is just so Vi, because she's very fiery, and just like, you don't understand, Silko is dangerous, and he's this, that, and the other, and she's just like, because of her temper, is just like kind of thrown out, and which makes Caitlin quite sad. And after this, you see things kind of break down between Vi and Caitlin. Vi is said that she was stupid to come, and stupid to think that she could change that she could like break through to the council, because she's from the Undercity and they're not, and they won't understand, and things like that. And so she leaves Caitlin like alone, and Caitlin says like, we can still do it, and Vi's like, no, we can't. It wasn't meant to be. All that. Caitlin says, what about us? And Vi just says the same thing. It wasn't meant to be. Oil and water is what she called it. And Vi leaves, just like goes back home. So that kind of leaves off things with that, like that kind of leaves them in a dodgy spot. So kind of a battle is looming. And Jace is very unsure of what to do. He's not been faced with anything like this. He's in the office, well, he's in the laboratory with Victor, and Mel comes in and says, we have to, I know it's not what you want to do, but we have to prepare our own countermeasures. And Victor is very against it. He says, absolutely not. This is not what we've developed it for. This is not what we're going to use it for. And Jace is very, very conflicted about, because the threat on the Undercity is real. And if like he does nothing, then he doesn't feel right about that. But if he sort of like goes in, it could make things worse. He's in a very, very sticky situation. Meanwhile, in the Undercity, a conference of the bosses is announced. So Silko goes along with it with Savika, and when he gets there, he brings like a little device. You don't know what's in this device. And when he gets to the meeting, he hears them sort of like talking about like Silko you're losing the plot, and doesn't look good for you. You're basically bleeding money from us, and all this kind of like shimmer talk is very dated, and they want to get him out. They want to have a coup. And so Silko comes through with this device. You don't know what it's for. He sets it down the table. And Savika comes in with like a canister, a gas canister. She puts on a mask and she lets it off, and it's basically poisonous gas. She drops it like in the room. All the fans turn off, and which basically means that everybody in there sort of like chokes and sort of like spits and just wants air. And sort of he does this to send a message to them. It says, you got to remember, we have, there were rules, and if you don't play by my rules, this is what's going to happen to you, or you're going to die, which is equally a possibility. So he asserts his dominance by choke, like almost killing them, which is a really effective statement. I would say really effective, really menacing. This is when like Silko is at his most menacing, and it just says like, remember who the boss is here. I own you, and don't ever forget it. And he sort of like saunters out all nice. He has like a pack of gas masks, and so he just like chucks them at people just so that they can breathe. It's really effective. And the meeting finishes, but it's not over yet. One of the bosses, called Finn, goes to the bar in sort of later, and sees Savika, and basically says to her, he's losing the plot, and basically wants Savika to get involved with the coup. Savika is Silko's right hand lady, and so she feels kind of weird about this. You don't know if she's going to go through with it or not. But like Finn tries to convince her that, because he's old and there needs to be new leadership, and all of this. It's all really sort of interesting stuff, showing that like not only does like Piltover have like issues within their sort of like system, like the Undercity with their mob rule is equally as screwed, because like they say, Silko is just like really bad and really not what he used to be after a few years of his rule. And Savika sort of like kind of like takes it, kind of doesn't. It's very strange. So we're left off with that. And so Jace thinks that's like finally agrees with Mel, and goes back to his house and says to his mother, I don't think there's nothing I can do here. This is the only way. I'm going to have to do something I never thought I would do. and goes against Victor and says, "This is how it's going to be." So so he goes ahead and builds a weapon to fight Silko's army with. While he's doing that, Vi comes to meet him and says basically what she said at the council, but to his face, and says like, you are very, like she says to him straight up, you are afraid, you are a bit of a coward, and you don't want to do anything, but like this has to happen, and this, you know, we have to bring him down, and you won't like listen in the council. And he's just like, fine, okay. She puts on one of the gauntlets, and I didn't know this well. I kind of knew this going in, but when she put on the gauntlet, you kind of know, I mean, fans of the game will know that the gauntlets are Vi's weapon in the game, which is like, I guess when fans of the game figured that out, or didn't figure that out, but saw that, they got very, very excited. I got very excited because like it was like part of the story, and it was part of like all of that. And Jace builds his weapon, which is a massive hammer with a cannon, which is another weapon from the game, which is Jace's weapon, because Jace is a character as well in the game. That's when everybody got a little bit hyped up. So they're going to go to war with Silko, and how do they do that? They're going to go to one of his manufacturing like facilities, his like one of his shimmer plants, and when they go there, they figure out, they don't figure it out, but like they see that when they try to raid it, that the people working there are kids. They just like have an army of kids just working all the machinery and all the sort of the shimmer like into wherever it needs to go for Silko. One kid like raises an alarm, and they get into action. Once the alarm is hit, then sort of like some like modified soldiers come out. They've got like armor and blades and things like that. And so Vi and Jace go back to back and battle it out. It's a really fun fight. Vi has the gauntlet, so she's just like punching people left and right. Jace is just swinging. It's really fun. Just like, and when that fit out, like, and when it so he's like swinging and sort of like creating all these blasts and things like that, and just like just Vi is just like wailing on people. It's just really fun. The music's really amped and really sort of like, it's just really good. And then the hammer turns into a cannon, and he's just like letting loose these like massive energy blasts just like left and right. It's just really fun until there's like one of these bladed guys, and he's like trying to aim at the thing to try and kill it. He aims it and blasts, but his last blast hits a kid, and he doesn't die like instantaneously. He just like sits there and wobbles, and then falls down like a big sort of like, it's almost like it's not a well, but it's like a massive sort of thing where the shimmer is. And you see it, and he falls down and down and down, and then like you see it, the shot of the ground, and you see his face, like, you don't really, it's not really graphic, but you see, like, you hear his face like crack into the ground. It's like, oh, ooh, oh boy, that's not good. And yeah, so there's that. Victor is still sort of like experimenting with the shimmer and the thing, and his assistant, who is Sky, comes in. This is another sort of kind of issue that I have. I'll address this a bit later, but it's mentioned that Sky has a bit of a crush on Victor, and it doesn't, you know, it's like she says a few words to him, here and there, but he doesn't really listen. He's focused on his work. But Sky comes into his office and sees that the binding is already going on, and there's like lights flashing and things like, and so Sky rushes towards Victor and tries to drag him away from the device. And he doesn't really see it. Like, he sort of like moves like his eyes to her, and then Sky sort of starts to like fade away and sort of like float, and sort of like and basically vanish into like, and sort of like burst into like dust. And it's really, even though that you don't really know the character, it's really shocking. It's really like, I mean, you didn't really expect that character to go, especially not in the way that she did. But like, she just turns to dust. And the hex core, it's kind of insinuated that some of her might have been put into that, and so it's like all kind of like vibrating and just like throbbing, and just it's become something different altogether. And of course, Victor sort of like stops it and is just kind of aghast at what he's done. Basically, and Sky is just like a puddle of ash, or just like dust, and it's just like, oh, ooh. And you don't really know Sky that often. I mean, it would have been better if there were some more scenes with her and Victor in the show, but there's only like a few interactions. There's only like one big interaction, and then this happens, and then it is shocking. But you don't really know a lot about the character to begin with, so the death isn't that it's not that it's not sad, but it could have been more effective. It could have been more effective, is all I'm saying. So after this happens, he is sort of like knocked out. When he comes to, he finds Sky's diaries, and sort of like reads her notes about, like, because she has ideas about how to help him out with the core. And he's just like sitting there just sobbing, and just like things aren't going well for Victor. He's sick, he's taken a shimmer, he's killed his lab assistant, and it's just like really sad. Like, the show, like, overall is just like a massive like tragedy, really. But yeah, that's pretty gnarly. And then well, not and then back at the plant, they go down to where the kid is, and Jace walks up to the kid, who's not dead. He's just on the ground, just like gasping for air, and then he dies. And then Jace sees that, and then he looks up at all the other kids that are there watching, and he just can't take it. He's like, says like, no, we're done. Well, I didn't want this to happen. But Vi's like there as well, and she says, what did you expect? This is war. This is what you need to expect when you're doing this sort of thing. People are going to die. And she's right. And it's not that he didn't know that specifically, but it's just a part of it. And they sort of get into like a little argument, and it's implied that they might have a fight themselves down there, but Jace drops it and just says, no, I'm done, and that's it. He leaves. And then after he leaves, Vi finds one of the big sort of vats of shimmer, and just like punches a hole through it and destroys it. So you have that. There's another character that I need to talk about. I won't go into too much detail about her, but it's to do with Mel. In the series, it's implied that Mel was extradited from her home at a young age. She's from a place called like Noxus, which is another country in the world, because she didn't live up to her family's expectation. And in one of the episodes, she gets like a letter from her family, from saying, you don't really see it what it says, but you just see her family's sigil on it, and she knows like straight away what's happening. And so they go to she goes to she goes to meet her family member, and it's her mother, who is the leader of I think it's the leader of Noxus. I don't know her name. She's something Madada. That's the family name is Madada. And she has a really and Mel has a really sort of hard time coming to terms with this, and sort of like, because she hasn't seen her mother in sort of years, and doesn't know how to sort of like take it all in. And you see that basically her mother is there because she's obviously heard of the Hex Tech, and they're at war with somebody. You don't really know who, but like they're at war with another faction in the world. And she kind of says, she goes to Jace as well. Or Jace actually goes to her, and sort of she discusses this behind Mel's back. And the reason that she's there is because that she wants Hex Tech to be weaponized, and to go to war with her enemies, which Mel is not happy about. And she's actually more like angry because like she told Jace this, and she like, and there's a scene later in, I think it's in episode 8. So this is kind of on the same place, where she goes to find her mother and says like, I'm not doing this for you. You're not getting the weapons. You're not gonna get any weapons. You're not gonna go to war. This is Piltover. This is what we've built, and this is how it will stay. But her mother isn't having it. And then an interesting question is raised, as Mel says like, why did you exile me? And she says one of the hardest lines probably in the entire show. She says, because you weakened me. And she says like, I couldn't bear to see your face when I had to make the decisions, the necessary decisions to keep us safe. And she says it in this really sort of gruff tone, and she's just like, and after she says that, Mel is just like kind of shocked, and I was as well. I was like, damn, what an answer. But she reiterates that they need the weapons to go to war. And the problem is that she needs them more now because Mel's brother is dead. She just mentions it out of the blue, and that's the reason she's come, is to just get weapons and face her enemy. But but her mother, like her mother's is a good character, but it's made Mel a better character. Like, because you like, Mel is in it quite a lot, but you only saw her as like this counselor, kind of high up, kind of posh, like good, like, you know, sort of well-to-do citizen. But then when her mother comes in, it adds another dimension to her character and kind of changes her. Doesn't change her, but like it gives her more to, doesn't just give her more to do, it gives her more depth. And I can't wait to see what will happen with the Madadas going forward. So yeah, it's all in disarray. It's all probably pretty much gone to absolute hell. The sort of the mining operation that Jace tried to stop has gone really poorly. And yeah, and so just Vi just goes off to find somebody. So then we get to the last episode. in which basically I'm not sure how this is going to go on, but I'm going to sort of like get to the point, because there's quite a lot that happens. So one of the things is that Victor has Sky's ashes, and he sort of like pours and sort of like down a like at one of the places that he was at. And before he tried to destroy the hex core, he was going to, and then he decided not to, and then he was knocked out again. So now he's gotten rid of the ashes, and excuse me, and he's kind of has nothing left, and so he walks closer to the edge of this place where they were before, and Jace comes and saves him, and with the exact same line that Victor used to save him many years ago, back in the second episode, and basically says that basically says to Jace that I can't do it. You have to destroy the hex core, which is quite a problem for her. He's kind of like Jace kind of hesitates, but like in the end says, "All right, I'll do it." And he says, "Thank you." Victor. There's a great line in there as well. Is like, I forget what it is exactly, but you know, in our pursuit of greatness, we failed to do good. When that line hit, that was just like so good, such good dialogue there. Yeah. At the end of episode 8, you see Caitlin showering, and after her shower, she gets out, and then in the mirror, on the mirror, you see Jinx's symbol, her like little monkey symbol, and she realizes what's going to happen, but doesn't really clock it. So there's a great shot of her face in the mirror, like reflecting in the mirror, and then you see because there's some condensation on it. You think you see something, and then like at the last minute, you see Jinx in the background, because she's turned into Jinx is now sort of like turned into like a shimmer sort of machine, not a machine, but like a kind of a roided up version of herself, and which has made her crazier. She sees it, she sees her in the mirror, but like you see her eye line, and you see her eyes just like switch, and then that's the end of the episode 8, and it's just such a great cliffhanger. Anyway, sort of in episode 9, Silko just goes to Jace directly and says, right, this is my plan for the independence of Zorn, and if you know, it will serve you well to do it and maintain it, because you know, if you don't, then there'll probably be more war, and he's kind of trying to be as diplomatic as he can. And sort of Jace doesn't really like it at first, but he realizes that is the only way for peace to happen, and so he has no choice but to do so, but to present it to the council. Then you kind of a quick word on Heimerdinger. He was expelled from the council and made his way into the Undercity, but found himself unwelcome. And so when he's at the bridge, he notices like a board, like a hoverboard, which is kind of green, and he kind of fiddles about with it, and he sees Echo. Who's wounded, who's like sprained his ankle or something, and with Heimerdinger's help, they get back to his hideout, and Echo shows Heimerdinger sort of like around a little bit, and says, and Heimerdinger's like, this is really impressive. Like, how did you how did you do all this? And just said, like, with people, with hardworking people, and just like it's very, very peaceful. And so they're going to be working together on something or other. Back in Vi's world, this is the last sort of straw. She has the gauntlets, and she's going to the one person who might know where Jinx is, because of course she wants to find her again, and kind of end Silko once and for all. So she goes to the bar with the gauntlets on to try and find, guess who? Savika. Savika, who is there at the bar. She's there. Savika is there as well, and she tells everybody to get out so that an epic smackdown can happen again. It's the last fight of the entire series, and I must say that this fight is absolutely incredible. The cinema, not just the cinematography, but like the shots that they're able to get, the motion and the emotion after it as well is just great. So they go at it. They sort of like Savika has like a blade. Vi throws a pool table at her, and then as she's going to sort of like attack her again, Savika sort of pulls out like a blade and sort of like starts like slashing at her. She actually does get one of the gauntlets and sort of like severs into it and sort of like destroys it. Savika gets the upper hand and sort of like starts like wailing on her and just like punches her to the ground. So Vi's out for a little bit, but then you see a ghost of Vanda, who basically tells her to get up. And he kind of says like, I wish this thing could get easier, but it never does. You just gotta do it. You gotta do it for family. You gotta do it for Powder. You gotta do it for everybody. And so she hears him, and so she gets up, spits out a tooth, and just like goes at her again with with only one gauntlet. Stuff happens. There's a massive it causes like a massive power outage. And when Savika goes to slash her with goes like to get the upper hand, she Vi blocks and creates like a force field around her, and then pushes Savika back. When Savika's arm comes at her again, Vi grabs her with the other gauntlet, rips off her arm, and just chucks her into the into the jukebox. Basically, sort of like crippling her again, and takes her whole arm again. And just like Savika doesn't win. Savika's maybe tough, but she like when she comes up against Vi, she's like dead. She doesn't die, but she's like mortally wounded again. Well, actually not again, because she wasn't in the first place, but she loses. And after this, Vi is so exhausted that she sort of like goes to her knees and basically like screams, like, and sort of that moment is just so powerful, because that like this was very personal for her, and just wants to get to Silko, wants to get to Powder, and just so exhausting. And she just like lets out this massive like scream. It's just like, oh, it is really, really good. Little does she know that Jinx is there and knocks her out. She also does the same to Silko, who is at Vanda's like statue, his like little sort of like memorial. It's not memorial, but it's kind of statue, and he's basically telling him, Silko is basically telling him, like, there is no way to win. I tried to do the same as you do, but do it in a different way, but it just didn't work. And you can see that Silko, as villainous as he is, still had respect for Vanda, even though he killed him, even though that he betrayed him, he still had respect. And he's drinking like by his fountain, and he pours one out for him, And he's just like, is there anything so undoing as a daughter? And you don't realize it, but behind the statue, Jinx is there, and she swipes him up as well. So then you get to the final scene. The final scene of the entire show. And it's kind of cut between the council and the not the hideout, but this location that they have. Jace and Victor are there to propose the truce, the independence of Zorn. And when they talk about it, when they bring it up, everybody just goes mental and just like says like, absolutely not. This is not the way. This is not what we're gonna do. And so they're mad. Vi wakes up in this abandoned building, opposite on a table, and you can hear Jinx's voice sort of like go around the place. You don't notice it, but they're in this exact same place that the explosion happened in episode 3. I didn't even clock it until a couple minutes into the scene. But she's telling Vi that all along that Silko thinks that he made Jinx, that he was, with all his ramblings and all of his sort of like lessons and things like that, but she says that he didn't do it. And she says to Vi that you did. And when she said that, I was like, she's kind of right. because of all of that baggage in episode 3, and sort of like Vi sort of like turned her into Jinx. She's kind of not wrong. But it's just so sad. Because like Vi is very, very guilty of what she's done, and sort of like it's just like it's just not good. It's not good at all. She's strapped to a chair. You don't really know what's happening. Jinx comes upon her and lights everything up, and it's a table, and at the end of the table is Silko, again strapped up, and has like a sort of a little sort of gag in his mouth. And at the side of the table, you see her little dolls of Milo and Clanger, and she kind of sort of like walks around and sort of tells Vi that this is it. This is the place where Silko stabbed Vander in the back, and we can get revenge right here. One other thing is that she goes away, and then Jinx comes back with like a platter, like, and sort of a little sort of thing on top of it, and she says it's the most tense thing ever. It's like she drops it down, and you realize like Vi might think that that's Caitlyn, and then you think that it might be Caitlyn as well, because she did like kidnap her. And just like, oh God, is this gonna happen? And it's just she says, Jinx says, I paid your girlfriend a visit, and she sort of like twist the knob there, and she's like, and then she opens it, and it's not Caitlyn, but it's like a cupcake with the Hextech gemstone in it. And she says, well, I'm not that crazy. So she goes over. She has like Caitlyn in a wheelchair and just like pushes her to the side for them to join them, which is just really, really weird. Then like Vi is sort of begging her not to do anything, and not to that pleads with her that we can work this out. We can do something. We can go away. And then Jinx pulls the gag off of Silko, and basically Silko tells her that she's lying. She's lying. She's always wanted this for you, but like I don't want that. And like you'll be with her like 2 days tops before she leaves you again. And he's trying to get into Jinx's head. which kind of like works for the time being. And then when everything gets too like much for her, she kind of shoots one of the dolls and sort of crashes her, crashes like a glass that she has, which gives Caitlin the opportunity to escape. So they're talking and talking, and then Caitlin escapes, and she has the Gatling gun, and she has Jinx's Gatling gun. And it's really weird because like before, there's like two chairs beside them. There's one marked Jinx and there's one marked Powder, and Jinx basically gives Vi a gun and says to her, right, you either the only way you can get Powder back is to shoot Caitlin. Just do that and we can get out. And she can't do it. Vi can't do it. Because they've gone through some stuff. And so she goes to do it herself and she says, hey, stop. We can work it out. So now Caitlin has the Gatling gun, and she's kind of like, there's a bit of a standoff, and Jinx is acting all innocent, and then her shimmer powers kick in. She knocks out Caitlin and grabs the gun. And then this is where her sort of PTSD and her sort of psychosis kind of thing, because Silko and Vi keep sort of like talking to her in her ear and said like, and Vi is saying, remember Vanda, remember me, remember everybody that you liked, everybody that you love, everybody that ever cared about you. And Silko is going like, don't listen to her. I am your family. This is what's going on. And so this creates a massive wave of anxiety and psychosis in Jinx's mind. They both struggle. Silko actually managed to get 3 of his binds and picks up the gun and picks up like a weapon, and is going to shoot Vi. Jinx clocks this, and with the Gatling gun goes to like shoots at a chair. You don't know which chair, but she shoots at a chair. When the barrel stops spinning, she realized what she's done. She's killed Silko. Silko is just like in the chair, just like basically bleeding out. He drops the gun. Jinx rushes over in bits, in absolute floods of tears, and says to her, just, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. And Silko says that I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't have done any of this, because when Jace was talking to Silko, he mentions that Jinx was the one that did the atrocities, and Silko tries to think otherwise. But in order to get the nation of Zorn, Jace said that he needs Jinx. She needs to pay for what she's done. So when they're at the table, Silko mentions this to her. She says, I would have had it. They wanted you. They wanted you, but I wasn't going to get. But like at his death, he says, I never would have given it to them. I never would have done any of that. And you believe it. You believe it because everything that he's done. Yeah, that he's a psychopath. Yes, he's a villain, but he's never done anything to harm. He's never done anything to harm Jinx at all. He's always looked out for her, and he's never hurt her. There is sort of a thing that he might be like abusive, but he's never abusive to her. He's always believed in her, and always been his first like port of call, and has always been reliable. And so like he says that, and it's sad. So his last words to her is, she's sobbing, and he says, "Don't cry, you're perfect," and then dies. This is obviously the catalyst for Jinx. Two of her father figures have died by basically by her hand. Vanda died in the warehouse, and Silko died when Jinx fired the Gatling gun, and now she's lost two. Now she's lost two father figures, which kind of like brings her into like a funk. She kind of goes quiet, and Vi says like, "Look at me, we can work this out. We can go away. We can sort this." And then in the greatest bit of like symbolism, Jinx pulls up the Jinx chair and sits down in it, confirming to the audience that she is now Jinx and will never go back to powder. Well, won't go back to powder, but she's sitting in the Jinx chair, and she's made her decision. This is who she's going to be, and in that split second, so she gives her sister a chat and says like, "I wish that you can love me like you used to. I wish, even though I'm different, I've done all these things, and I've made sort of mistakes, and I've jinxed things up." And so everything is screwed. She picks out, and she gets like a weapon out. You don't really see what the weapon is, and then she picks up the stone. She puts it in, and then you see her go out to on a bridge. And in this moment, I didn't know what was happening. I didn't know what the weapon was, but you go out and you realize that when she picks it up, it's a rocket launcher with like a hex tech rocket in it, and she shoots it, and she aims directly at the council, and yeah, she lights it up, and it's more emotional because you see this happen, and then you like cut between them, between that and the council kind of like coming to terms with the fact that yes, peace might be the option, and you see them slowly vote on it, and you see the lights sort of like dim up, and Mel says, "I believe that this is what needs to happen," which convinces all the councillors to vote on the independence. Little do they know, a rocket is firing directly to them, and the last shot is basically everybody realizing when it was too late that the rocket is coming directly to them, and the last shot is the rocket breaking through, and that's it. So that's the end of the show. The last scene of the last episode is one of the most tense scenes I think I've ever seen in TV. There have been like tense things in, film that I've seen that, you don't really know where it's going. But in TV wise and series wise, that is the most like tense 15 to 20 minutes I have witnessed in quite a long time. You had no idea where that was going. It's just on edge all the time, and the ending is just so good. It's just so good. Yes, it's a massive cliffhanger, massive setup for series 2, but like, what a cliffhanger it is. What an absolute stunning turn of events, because people, a rocket towards the thing might will kill people. It'll probably kill Mel. It'll probably kill Caitlyn's mother, and like will basically shatter peace for Zorn and for Piltover, making things even worse, which makes Jinx's name even more poetic because, you know, she's done something again, which will make things worse. And you don't know where this is going to go, but yeah, it's just crazy. You see like Zavika wandering into Silko's office. He's obviously not there because he's dead. It'll be interesting to see like going forward, like who will take over that, if whether it will be Jinx or whether it will be Zavika, because Zavika's still alive. You know, what will happen with Mel's mother if she dies? That is going to be interesting. But like she was like right in front of the missile as it came into the room. So it's like she's dead. She's dead. So there's that. That concludes one of the greatest TV shows I have seen since Game of Thrones. I have no other words for it. The ending episode is just fantastic. The ending moments of the ending episode are just astonishing. I do not know how they did it, but they did it. I sat there in absolute awe and pain and just like pins and needles, just aghast and so impressed of what they've done. The last thing I'll say, because I know that this is very, very long, is a massive thank you to the creators. I think it's Alex Yee and Christian Link, I think, and all of the animators and all of the voice actors, Haley Steinfeld, Ella Purnell, Harry Lloyd, I think it was Victor. Like everything about the show is just so good. So I'd like to say like a massive thank you to all of the animators, all of the team that work behind this at Fortiche and at Riot Games. You've made, it might not have convinced me to play the game, but I am a fan now. Arcane has made me a fan, and I'll say it again, it's the best video game adaptation ever, and that's not just my opinion, that is fact. It's done really well on Netflix. Everybody's who I've seen has loved it, and I can't thank everybody who's worked on it enough because they've created one of the greatest TV shows I've ever seen. And I think that's going to be it for me. So once again, thank you to Riot, thank you to Fortiche, and thank you all for listening to this ramble, to this madness. This is very, very long. I'm not sure how this will play to YouTube, but I think this had to be quite long because it had to wrap up some stuff. So yeah, if there's some stuff that I missed, please do comment and let me know. You know, like, subscribe and all that good stuff. I am now quite tired, as you can probably see. But thank you very much for watching. I shall see you all again pretty soon. Bye.